Hello and welcome to another episode of The Grindbin. I'm Mike Wood.
I'm Chris Mann.
Today we're going to be talking about 1973's The Cheerleaders, a movie that was literally dropped here from another dimension.
Bobby, start the van!
Hey, Bobby, I got the money.
Dad, I made the team. But you're a hooker.
Get that goddamn thing out of your mouth.
We're setting knockers.
Spooky got no real poetry.
Brenda.
We're gonna play a little game, baby.
I just love fun and games. Get a little girl all hot and horny.
You could have looked decent once in a while. And maybe Daddy would have had to kill himself because he couldn't get it up anymore.
What a shame.
Come on, just step on the gas before we get creamed. And more.
So The Cheerleaders, I have the budget estimated at $153,000, which I find hard to believe. Very hard to believe, actually.
Do you think it was more or less?
Oh, I think much less.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
I do have some information today to maybe back that up.
Yeah, because that bear suit did not look cheap.
I also have information about that as well.
Please do. Is this going to correlate to the bearskin rug from Malibu High? Because I feel like those were the same bear.
In my inflation calculator, it would say that budget is $816,399. Very cheap movie still, but I still find that $153,000 hard to believe.
Yeah.
Now, the big thing about this movie was box office at that time. In 1973, this movie made $2.5 million, which is a huge profit.
Yeah, so this was a hit in all senses of
It's
the
a
word.
bigger hit than you will ever understand. In 1973, this movie, The Cheerleaders, had a self-imposed X rating. The film was such a success, however, that they later cut some of the sex scenes out to get an R rating. The scene they specifically cut was the lesbian scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when they were...
And apparently the shots of while they're on the exercise bike were deemed too graphic by the MPAA.
Oh, wow.
I know this because I have some very interesting information from a very interesting source about this movie, which I will reveal in a few minutes here. This movie was actually pretty groundbreaking, believe it or not. It was one of the first crossover sex and humor movies. Before this movie, most pornos and softcore pornos that were coming out in the theaters were taking themselves very seriously.
Yeah.
There wasn't much joking because people didn't actually think that you could make fun of sex or have funny things with sex because they expected people to kind of go in, get titillated, and walk out.
Yeah, strain their necks and...
So this movie was really, really groundbreaking in developing the sexploitation comedy, which kind of never existed before this movie, believe it or not.
Well, you gotta wonder, like, what prompted that experimentation? Is it just change that era, you know?
I do have information about that, believe it or not. In the first screening in Monterey, California, the movie broke their box office record in the first release. It was an instant hit. There were lines around the block, and there was no promotion. Just huge word of mouth. This thing blew up.
Are you sure that line wasn't like around a dock to a white van?
No. By midsummer, the movie was playing almost nationwide.
Oh my God.
It was a completely independent movie, and it was extremely rare at the time for an independent movie to play nationwide because typically, this is information from the director, an independent movie would have about 25 reels, and they would pass it from city to city and stagger the releases throughout the year.
Yeah.
This movie ended up having hundreds of prints and was played almost nationwide simultaneously, and at one point made it all the way up to #1 on Variety's list of movies in the fall of 1973.
Wow.
This was a massive success.
Oh my God. This is like the Blair Witch of porn.
Yes, it was. The film was made in the summer of 1972 in the cities of Cupertino, California, and Sunnyvale, California. The high school scenes were shot at Monte Vista High School in Cupertino, California. They casted the movie mostly, however, in Hollywood because, as the director put, in an interview, he thought the girls were more attractive there.
Oh, well, California girls.
The administration of Monte Vista High School claimed not to be aware of the racy elements or theme of the movie, and this is actually confirmed by the director. And every time they asked for a script, he just said no, until eventually they were done filming. They handed him the script, and they were mortified about what had been shot at their school. I know most of this information, I'll just say this now, because this movie, I have a copy of it on DVD, and it has a director commentary with Paul Glickler.
Thank God.
And there's another person on that commentary, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, that is extremely fascinating. Many of the football players were recent graduates of local high schools, as well as freshman football players from San Francisco State. None of them were actors.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's why in the shower scene, none of them are naked.
Yeah.
Because they were all very self-conscious, and they were very afraid to touch Stephanie Fondue while she was in there. They were very, very apprehensive. And the director said they all downed about a 6-pack of beer each before they shot.
Oh my
Because
God.
they were all so nervous to do that scene.
Oh my God.
The red uniforms in the film representing the team Amarosa High were actual uniforms, but the Amarosa was made up because originally they wanted the A's to be like the scarlet letter.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But they realized that thematic element would fall on deaf ears, so they just kind of dropped the whole thing.
I like how they try to be so thought-provoking. They tried so hard.
Yeah, they did.
Man.
The film apparently courted controversy due to its plot and subject matter, and this is true. In areas where the age of consent was 18 at the time, or where the laws on consent prohibited under 18s having sex with over 18s, there was a controversy over whether or not the girls were partaking in statutory rape. None of the ages of the girls are ever discussed, and when you think about it, probably a lot of them were under the age of 18.
Absolutely.
At least the characters, not the actresses.
Right.
Re-releases of the film renamed it as The 18-Year-Old Schoolgirls.
Way to cover your ass, boys.
This movie actually did run into some issues. There were cops who wanted to ban this movie in their towns, but one judge was like a huge fan of the movie, so he ruled on the rights of First Amendments and let it continue to be screened. But there were people trying to block it from actually being shown. This was actually a very, very, very big movie at the time. Very successful for 1973.
Oh, the system works.
So let's get into the director here, Paul Glickler. He credits himself as the director, editor, producer, writer, and the announcer at the football game. He's uncredited for that.
Oh, that's great.
He doesn't have any bio, and his commentary in this movie is amazing. He does the commentary with a writer of this movie who's called Ace Bandage. That is not his real name, and the writer will not reveal his real name.
Really?
His name is David, but there's a reason he won't reveal his real name.
David S. Goyer, maybe.
Oh, much more, much more.
Really?
When I told Chris today, I teased him and said, I have information about this movie that is literally life-changing, and you seemed very apprehensive on that.
Yeah, I think at the same time I want that mystique preserved for me because I just enjoy it so much. I don't want anything
when
to
you
ruin
find
this.
out the connection with this movie, it's pretty insane. Originally, the movie didn't. Okay, here are some commentary notes I have because I listened to the whole commentary. On the regular version of the podcast you're going to hear after this, we might allude to the commentary and that I should listen to it. Well, we're recording this later, and I have listened to it now, and I have a lot of interesting information about this movie and a lot of grindhouse movies and sexploitation movies in general. Originally, the movie didn't start with a football game.
Oh.
In fact, they added it much later. In fact, they didn't even shoot the football game in the beginning on the West Coast. They shot it on the East Coast while they were editing it. So they just reshot it because the distributor said they needed to start the movie somehow. And he suggested maybe you should start it with a football game because why not? Cheerleaders football, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Originally, it was going to start with the end where they were running around kidnapping the guys. That was how the movie was going to start.
Wow.
Because the director said he wanted to show them as a bunch of buccaneers.
Yeah. Buccaneers.
That's the term he used.
Fucking ears.
Paul claims that one of the people brought in to help with additional dialogue, who is Ace Bandage, won't give his real name because he actually went to work in the White House as a presidential speechwriter. He's totally uncredited in this movie. He didn't do much else. His real name is David, but yes, he was a presidential speechwriter and he worked in the White House.
Oh.
Life changing.
Did he work for Jimmy Carter?
They won't tell
Wow.
you. They will not say.
Wow.
But a man who worked on this movie, and when we start to dissect this movie, just think, that mind was in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he wrote
Either
all
during
those-
the Carter administration or the Reagan administration.
Maybe he wrote all those jokes for Reagan about the Cold War and the Soviets, because those are pretty funny.
This is, like, I thought they were joking.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. He really is a presidential
Wow.
speechwriter.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. Almost half the cast and crew were under an alias. The director says this was mostly due to the fact that this was a non-union picture.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were trying to avoid SAG. However, a lot of the actresses that changed their names for SAG reasons, IMDb credits them as their real name, and they'll show you their pseudonym or alias on there. The crew, though, is hard to find, and a lot of these people who are in the movie, they have very creative names. A lot of them never acted again, but we don't know if they're real actors or not.
I mean, Jovita Bush?
Yeah.
I still haven't forgotten that.
Jovita actually did act in a few more movies. It's kind of like how Lance from Malibu High is in the movie Super Vixens, which we cover in a later podcast. He's not credited for Super Vixens. You can't find his name on Super Vixens anywhere, but that's him.
Yeah.
It's 100% him. The writer actually did go on to help make, Ace Bandage did go on to make a sequel to this movie, Revenge of the Cheerleaders. They actually really wanted Paul to make a sequel to this movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because it was a huge success, but he declined. He had some other projects he was doing at the time. The casting for this movie was held in the hotel room. And the way they casted it was they asked all the actresses to get in front of them and get naked. Now, he says he claims this would be so they wouldn't be worried about getting naked in front of the camera.
Right.
So they walked into a hotel room with the blinds open, and there was about like 10 people in there, and they asked him to disrobe. And he said if they wouldn't, they just politely said, it's okay, you know, maybe this isn't the movie for you. However, Stephanie Fondue,
Oh, boy.
which Chris had some information on her, well, let him talk about that a little bit. Stephanie walked in. She was never an actress. She was from a modeling agency. And when they said, can you get naked? He said she had some sort of thing that ripped her dress off like they were a pair of rip-away pants. And she immediately was naked and was the only girl that wouldn't draw the blinds to shield the outside viewers from seeing. And he knew right away it was like, oh, she's the star.
Oh, Canada!
So, Chris, you had a little bit of information about Enid, didn't you?
So, Stephanie Fondue, also known as Enid Finnbogason.
I like that name. Finnbogason?
Yeah. Canadian from Manitoba, Canada. She was a model. And where is she now? She is kind of under the radar. People don't know where exactly, but she has a nightclub in Canada.
Oh.
And she manages a nightclub. And she's also I found her on LinkedIn as well. And it's definitely her. And it's...
Do you think she gets in front of that nightclub and just rips her dress off?
That was opening night, actually. That's instead of cutting a ribbon, they cut her clothes off. She cut her own clothes off.
Paul has some very interesting information about Enid throughout that movie.
Please do.
I have more notes on it. Well, let's get into. He says the most conservative of all the cheerleaders was actually the head cheerleader, Claudia, Denise Dillaway.
Yeah.
So she was very conservative and very weird about getting naked. However, she's naked in the majority of this movie.
Is she one that seduced the dad?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Huh.
So the original distributor he tried to sell this to said the idea of older men lusting after high school age cheerleaders was not believable and audiences would hate it. So he brought it to another distributor who said that was fine, but had a problem with it being a comedy. The head of sales hated the movie. He thought it was going to bomb because they were making fun of sex. However, the head of distribution, or the head of the distribution company, loved it. And he wanted to release it just as it was and said it's going to be basically a new way of showing a sexploitation film. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
And he was right. Later, when they went to make the sequel, the the head of sales came back to him and said he was sorry and he was wrong. And that Paul got it right.
Yeah.
But he basically said all they wanted was every 15 minutes you got to have some sort of TNA, and all the story in between is up to you. They didn't care.
Oh, that's how a studio should be run right there, folks.
The only actor to really use their real name is the coach, which I go into detail later, who's in a lot of movies, actually. The scene with the bus driver.
Oh, wow.
He confirms that was not an actor. That was just the guy that came with the bus for the day when they rented it. And they just asked him if he wanted to be in the movie. And he said, sure. And they're just like, all right, it's going to be a sex scene. He's like, yeah, whatever. So that's how that happened.
Wow.
On the spot. They had no plans for that.
And obviously, they didn't have to pay for the bus since it disappeared.
Yeah. The production designer of this movie is the one person to really make it out. He went on, this was his first movie, okay? But then he went on to work as the production designer on Die Hard, Die Hard with a Vengeance,
wow.
Speed, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Volcano, Multiplicity, and dozens of other movies.
Good for him.
Very, very successful career.
Good for him.
Cheerleaders was his first movie.
Wow.
The main investors for this movie were Canadian stockbrokers from Montreal. Never made a movie before. They were interested in just investing in some sexploitation picture. Apparently, they showed up to set multiple days, and they loved it.
You wonder if that had anything to do with Enid or Stephanie Fondue?
I don't know. No, he said that Stephanie came from just a modeling agency. They just sent her over as like kind of a random thing, like, hey, go see if you get this part. Go rip your dress off.
Yeah.
While they were filming in San Francisco, around San Francisco, Cupertino, the female cast would go out into San Francisco wearing their uniforms and go to bars and like terrorize men.
Yeah. Oh boy, pepperoni.
He said in that scene, by the way, he tried to figure out what a cheerleader would come out of, and they said, what type of pie would she come out of? And they eventually settled on pizza pie.
Oh, as opposed to what, like a cobbler,
like a cake or something.
Like
they
a
just
cake.
couldn't afford it. He said this movie was made extremely cheaply and basically on credit cards. And when those Canadian investors showed up to set, he had no idea if they were going to sign the contracts and give him money. And the set they were filming at is the janitor's house. And so there's all those weird gags and everything, but they loved it. So about the janitor's house, we're going to talk about this in the actual movie, and he shows up in that bear suit.
Yeah.
Originally, the idea was for him to be in a bearskin rug, and he was going to just be part of the rug, but it didn't come out right, so they just said, lay down on the bed and we'll just have you pop up as the bear. So originally, it wasn't supposed to be a bear costume. He was supposed to be a bear rug, but it just didn't look believable. It looked like they were laying on top of a guy.
I give him credit though. That is creative. That's pretty damn funny. That's damn funny.
The last thing I have from the commentary is that Enid apparently really, really, really wanted to have sex in the last sex scene for real because she thought it would be fun. And like to know like, oh, I actually did it.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can't do that. This is not an actual porno. Like there's no way I can film you really having sex. And she was apparently very, very disappointed about that.
Wow.
He said she was very forward. And there's a joke in the movie where like they talk about the little person at the golf course. Mm-hmm. He was originally supposed to have like a jacket that said miniature golf instructor. That was like the whole joke.
That was the joke. Wow.
But apparently he was very forward with all the women. And he says all of them turned him down, and he said even Enid, in a way that was like, oh, but she didn't turn down anybody else. So.
Oh wow.
So here we get into the cast. We've already talked about Stephanie Fondue, or Enid, as Jeannie. Denise Dillaway, who was Claudia, was in a few other exploitation movies, but she worked as a makeup artist. The last thing she did was some direct-to-video movie called Who's Your Daddy? Kind of fell into obscurity. Javita Bush.
Oh yeah.
Who plays Bonnie, our favorite cheerleader, was in a few more sexploitation movies, not much else. Brandy Woods, who played Debbie, nothing else. Claire Dia, who plays Susie, she's a redhead in this movie.
Yeah.
She went on to do a lot, actually. She attended City College in San Francisco and worked as a secretary before her acting debut in What About Jane, an erotic soap opera, 1972. During the making of this movie, though, she was arrested and thrown in jail on obscenity charges, but spent only 4 hours before being released. She then went on to star in over 20 adult films and directed 2 of them. And she actually attended Berkeley Film Institute, where she studied filmmaking. Oh, wow. So she had a very successful porno career.
Quite illustrious, actually.
Kimberly Hyde, who plays Patty, the one we remark in the regular podcast, it looks like a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
She used the name Kim Stanton in this movie because she was actually a SAG actress, and she was in the movie The Last Picture Show in 1971. She acted in a few more sexploitation movies, but didn't really get legit work.
No, it sucks.
But was afraid to use her real name.
Yeah.
Richard Meatwhistle. Yes, that's an actor name in this movie, who plays John. Dick Meatwhistle. Nothing else. This is it.
Wow.
Jonathan Jacobs, who plays Norm in this movie.
Yeah.
Jeannie's nerdy boyfriend. Nothing else, but he also worked as the PA on this movie. So
really?
He's not only Norman,
double duty.
Just like his character in the movie, he was always with some sort of new uniform on. Now, this can't really be his real name. The janitor, which I finally found out his name is Novi. That's his character's name.
Yeah. Oh,
you never find that out in the movie. Is played by a man named Raoul Hoffnung.
That guy does not look like that.
Only credit. I don't think that's his name. Patrick Wright, who plays the coach, was in a ton of Russ Meyer movies.
Oh, was he in Super Vixens?
He was not in Super Vixens. Super Vixens is a movie we're going to cover a couple weeks from now.
Yeah.
We've already recorded it. He starred in a lot of his older ones, and then he did star in Russ Meyer's last movie, the Beyond the Valley of Super Vixens.
Right.
He ended up passing away in 2004, the age of 65, in Palmdale, California.
Liver disease?
No.
Oh. I have to ask. I have to ask. I mean, that's like that's just typical of all these films. Everyone goes from liver disease or some kind of weird circumstance. Fixing the lamp, liver disease is one or the other.
He was in a ton of movies. His 2 most famous movies he was in were he was on the Twins in the movie Little Big League in 1994.
Oh, really?
He was one of the baseball players.
Oh.
And he was in the movie A Million to One.
It's still my favorite
Paul
name.
Rodriguez class.
Yeah, still my favorite title.
So now we get into the crew. Paul Glickler, writer, director, editor, producer, directed 3 movies: Running Scared 1980, Cheerleaders 1973, and Hot Circuit 1971. Richard Lerner, who gets a story credit as the cinematographer, actually directed the sequel to the movie, Revenge of the Cheerleaders, 1976, went on to direct a few small documentaries, and is currently in post-production on a new movie called The Repairman.
Wow.
And that's about it. This is extremely hard to find anything about this movie. Even though it was a huge success, most of the people involved do not want their names associated with it and kind of want to forget it. But that commentary by Paul Glickler is absolutely amazing. It's a real great look into what it was like making one of these movies, which was our goal, is to eventually get somebody to be interviewed.
Yeah.
Great listen if you can. This movie, by the way, is incredibly hard to find. It's not online. Anchor Bay originally released a DVD set with this, The Swinging Cheerleaders, and Revenge of the Cheerleaders. in the earlier 2000s, mid 2000s. Since then, that's the copy I have, by the way. Since then, it's out of print, almost impossible to find.
Wow.
Briefly released this movie on Blu-ray, believe it or not.
That's like going for $50 though, huh?
Yeah, $50 for the Blu-ray of this movie. You can still get the DVD of just the Cheerleaders for about $14, $15, but I don't know if it has his commentary on it.
Yeah.
Oh, it is really, really great, though. If you are a fan of this movie, man, find out if that DVD has the commentary. It's really worth picking up. I wish there was a way that people could watch this easily, because it's an absolute classic.
Yeah.
So again, why does the audio sound better in the beginning than it does in the rest of the episode? Well, for this episode and our next episode, we were recording originally on lav mics. Now we record on these handheld mics, which is much more inconvenient, but certainly sounds a lot better.
You know, but I think we sound more professional because now we enunciate better into the microphones instead of like just kind of. The other one was too casual, I felt like.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted originally, was to sound more casual and to be more free in the conversation. But with that, we kind of lost, I think, a seriousness to it, or just an approach to it was lost, I think. So this is better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And the reason we're re-recording new intros to these is because people were interested in the history of the movies, as well as us kind of like giving these movies their proper due. You know, we're digging them up, but we don't want to just kind of like explain them and forget about them. It's really interesting to break into how they were made, the people that were involved in it, because a lot of them, like we said, there's 3 categories. They went on to more fame, they disappeared, or
They're dead.
They're dead.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to help us support a project we are a part of right now on Kickstarter.com, it is a short film called 54321 by director Jesse Michaels, who you may or may not know from music, like bands like Operation Ivy, Common Writer, and Classics of Love. He's also an author. He's got one novel under his belt called Whispering Bodies, a Roy Bilkin disaster. This short film we are working on, it's astonishing short crime film that is gripping, smart, and impossible to forget. So please go online on our website, on our Facebook account on Grindbin. We'll have all the information where you can back this project. We are going to have cool incentives like signed posters, t-shirts, and even some cast credits. So please check us out.
And this is really a labor of love. Nobody's working for a profit on this thing. All the money we raise for that Kickstarter goes to paying the actors as well as the crew members. We have some great crew members on this. We're trying to get a really good assistant director right now, as well as some audio assistant, some really, really, really skilled people. We want to pay them.
Yeah.
So
we're going
please.
big. We're going big on this one.
Help us make this project, and hopefully we'll have more projects in the future. And as always, if you have any suggestions for this show, please let us know. We've recorded a few episodes already, but we are very open to any suggestions you have to improve the show, as well as movie suggestions. And like I said, I still have a standing offer. If you even want to be on the show, let me know. Like Chris said, you got to supply your own microphone.
Bring your own microphone and cable. That's all we.
That's not true, but
and water bottle. Oh, and ride. You need your own radiator.
Yeah, we don't supply any sort of waters or.
We're not even going to Uber your ass out here.
Yeah, no.
Parking spot, forget about it.
But seriously, if you do want to be on this show, I want you to explain why we should be watching your movie you suggested.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be interesting.
That would be. Yeah.
So go ahead, email us, contact us. Call me. I don't care. Whatever. Let's talk bad movies. I don't do this for work. I do this for fun. So. And thanks again for everybody that's listening and rating and reviewing us on iTunes. We really, really appreciate that. If you can continue to give us a few rates or reviews up there, that would be even better. We just want to expose this show to as many people as possible. And we really, really, this is a community type project. We really love any sort of input from anybody. And if you are a part of any of these movies, director, crew, actor, whoever, I don't care if you were like the friend of the friend who's in this movie, please contact us. We would love to have any information that we can share that provides a little glimpse on what it was like to make these movies during the 70s and 80s. I think for our audience, they would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. And just because it's called Grindbin doesn't mean it's a grind for us. Again, labor of love. That's just why we want to hear from you guys. Again,
So we'll leave you alone now. Enjoy the original recording of the podcast for 1973's The Cheerleaders. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us online at facebook.com/grindbin, grindhousefilm.com. We're also on Twitter, and we're also on iTunes.
And Instagram, too.
Oh, yes. Chris is running Instagram. You saw that post from Malibu High. Just Kim lying on the beach.
Yep.
I'm pretty convinced that this movie was made for one of two reasons. One reason was that it's just a softcore porno. The other reason is that the writer, director, producer, and editor, Paul Glickler, was trying to warn us about something. Trying to warn us about a vermin that exists on this planet and within our society. And that vermin are cheerleaders.
Stern warning.
They prey on men, they suck the life out of them, and they're nothing but a nuisance. And I believe this movie might be a warning call to all of us, but we just didn't interpret it correctly.
No, I feel like the boom of contraception is going to be huge once this movie gets out.
I feel like this was a warning sign that everybody thought was a joke. My proof? The trailer.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen.
This is the common cheerleader, an American phenomenon. Her breasts are usually full. Her waist basically narrow. Her thighs incredibly creamy. Her lips are moist and often occupied. Statistics show that the more active the cheerleader, the more successful the team.
Well, has your sex life improved any since you made the team?
Yes, Captain?
I'd like to get all the cheerleaders out of last period every day.
Every day?
We have to get together for a little warm-up.
Is it my turn? When is it my turn? Hey, it's fair to assume that if 3 cheerleaders can lead a team to 6 victories, imagine what 6 cheerleaders can do.
Mom, Dad, I made the team!
Come huddle with the cheerleaders. They will do anything to make their team win.
Love me right. If you wanna keep me, hold me tight. Keep your fingers quiet on my soul. Hold me close and show me all you know.
I want to call back to the trailer real quick here because you can't hear this. But at the end of this trailer, while they're playing that song, which seems like they play the full song,
right?
We get text on the screen, and if you don't watch the trailer, I'm going to read it for you right now. It says, "Everything you ever wanted to know about cheerleaders but were afraid to ask is now exposed on the big theater screen."
They make it seem like a documentary, like an inside look at the hidden terrible world 2020.
Now you're starting to catch on to what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
It feels like it exists in the same world as The Van, is what I feel like. I feel like Bobby missed an opportunity to just play football.
Oh man, if Bobby could meet any of these girls, he would be he would not have the same problem he faced in the van, that's for sure. He just needed to go over to wherever Amorosa is. Let's go ahead and start. We start with just a football game and very low angle up the skirt of all the cheerleaders. Every camera angle in the beginning of this movie is like a voyeur shot. Like, basically somebody's laying on the ground taking pictures up their skirts.
The only people that spent more time on their back than the actresses were the cameramen in this film, to say the least.
Very true. So we just hear the cheerleaders, they're bouncing up and down, and they repeat the same chant over and over, which is...
Now, I have a problem with that. So are they inferring that they are going to come on boys, or the boys are going to come on boys? Because it's easily to misinterpret that.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is
it makes no sense either way,
Yeah.
because I guess you couldn't say... you couldn't replace boys with girls.
Yeah.
Because the chant would make no
Right.
sense. They use any chant possible to put in a sexual innuendo or double entendre. I mean, everything is either a sex joke or a reference to sex. I mean, everything.
And they are all relentless. You have no time to breathe, really.
So the first scene, other than this football game, is we go through the locker room, and I told you we actually watched this movie together, which is the first time we've watched one together, and I couldn't have picked a more awkward movie to watch with somebody else, because it is a porno.
Yeah,
and we watched every frame.
Yeah,
no fast forwarding.
I saw you readjust yourself a few times during the film.
I got up a few times.
Get some coffee. Wink, wink. I had to take a shower.
But we walk into the locker room, and the cheerleaders are like looking at the camera like you're not supposed to be in there, which is really off-putting because this is the first introduction, other than looking up their skirts, is they're just staring at you like you shouldn't be here. They break the fourth wall, but they never do it again in the entire movie.
It makes you feel guilty.
Very. Makes you feel like you shouldn't be watching this at all.
Yeah, like this is your last chance.
Yeah. We start right in with the nudity. I mean, tons and tons and tons of nudity. They're just taking clothes off, and then like they put clothes on just to take it back off. It's
clothes in this movie are merely a prop. They are discarded. They are reassigned.
Yeah.
They're all but disposed of. Who knows?
We don't learn much about them. We just see them, a lot of nudity, and then I guess this is all a cold opening, because then we open on an actual credit sequence where it introduces all the girls individually, and they like stare weirdly past the camera.
Right.
And it's not like a still shot. They're just staring in the wind, and it will hold on them for like a minute each. And we get the names, Jovita Bush, our favorite. So we go right into the burger stop, which is one of the like three scenes, the three locations in this entire movie. And we get it right away that everybody in this movie is very horny. I mean, very, very horny. The burger guy immediately starts hitting on one of the girls, not even a cheerleader, just some random girl ordering a burger.
Yeah.
And then we meet Jeannie.
Poor Jeannie.
And Jeannie is the one girl who's different from all the rest. We don't know why yet, but she seems really socially awkward, and at first I thought maybe mentally challenged.
Could it be her IQ? I think not.
You really think so, huh?
No.
You think above 50? Jeannie's not all there. That's for sure. I would venture to say this movie is maybe about a mentally challenged girl who wants to become a cheerleader.
Asperger's.
Because she's certainly not all there.
No.
And her method of hitting on this burger guy is giving him all those weird winks.
Is contorting her face in ways like Stallone and Over the Top, when it's going, and she's kind of doing that thing.
Yeah.
Without winning anything at the end of it.
And the guy that she's trying to hit on is so horny that he's hitting on everything, left, right, up, down, but won't hit on her.
Right.
He just goes like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? So she gives up, walks away, but then the cheerleaders show up, and they all ride around in their cheerleader mobile, which is some
jalopy looking thing, right?
Bizarro, like 1940s looking convertible.
I want to know where they got it and why that was the vehicle of choice.
I think it's provided by the school. Like it's their cheerleader mobile.
Oh.
So they show up. they just hop out of the car and start just rubbing on every man in sight. And the one girl gets on the table and says,
Who wants my sherry? Oh. Too late.
Yeah, by about 3 years.
wah, wah. This sets the tone for every line of dialogue from here
all
on
the
out.
zingers are going to be, you're going to be ducking.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many zingers going by.
So then Big John shows up.
Big John.
John, I don't really know how to explain what John does.
He's just like, he's kind of like
he's
the
not
mature
a student,
guy.
right?
I don't get the idea that he's a student. I feel like he's kind of the Charlie's Angels character in there. He's
what's his name? Like Boswell or something?
Yeah, I think he's Bosley or something. He's kind of like the Bosley of the
You mean
cheerleaders.
Let's just use it as the movie instead of the TV show. So Bernie Mac, right?
Yeah, he's the Bernie Mac of the show.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Big John shows up, and he's just like, I guess, their go-to guy for anything they need.
Yeah.
I guess he sells drugs, too.
And them, apparently.
And them, yeah. He shows up and he says, and this guy, his dialogue, he only speaks in rhymes. There's maybe one or two lines that he doesn't say a rhyme, but let me just give you an introduction. He rolls up and says,
Hiya, ladies. Good news is here. Just bring it on home to Big John, lay it down, and I'll pick it up.
Yeah, that made no sense whatsoever at the end of it.
It seems like they tried to put every catchphrase possible into one sentence.
Yeah, and they were trying to create catchphrases for merchandise on lunchboxes down the line.
This is going to be so hip when this guy rolls up and just lays it down.
Mm-hmm. Like a phonetic Fonzie, if you will. But nothing he says made sense.
No. He speaks in rhymes even if it doesn't make sense. And I guess when reading that back, it doesn't really even rhyme.
No.
The next thing we see is the Beaver Car Wash on the trivia page for this movie on IMDb, and you cannot trust anything written on there.
No.
Somebody claims that the Beaver Car Wash is actually called Beaver Car Wash.
There probably is one, but I doubt that one doesn't exist, obviously.
So Jeannie comes over to the car wash, and we meet Norman, who's Jeannie's boyfriend.
Right.
And Norman is... It was like they were made to be together, because he is also not all there.
No. In many ways.
He's just watching cars go through. She brings him lunch, and she says she wants to try out to be a cheerleader. He says, sounds like a good idea. Then we go right to the first sex scene, which is John plowing the main cheerleader in the car during the car wash. Mm-hmm. It goes on for a long time.
Yes.
A lot of weird sounds. And it keeps cutting to the car wash, and it's like extremely loud, the car wash. The car wash is louder than anything else, and every time they like cut out to the car wash, you just hear like...
I mean, that's the vibrations probably from the pulsing of the jets are probably helping her.
So we cut to her bedroom, Jeannie's bedroom, and she's has some cheerleaders there somehow.
Yeah.
And they're just dancing around with their skirts, putting their shoes on the bed, being all sorts of sluts. Trying to help her become a cheerleader, which it seems like she's already got the job.
Well, they just take the clothes off of a doll and put it on
a teddy bear.
Of a teddy bear, yeah.
Yeah, Jeannie, they're like, oh, Jeannie, you're never going to get on the team if you're dressed like that. And she's just dressed normal, but then they take clothes off a teddy bear and make her put it on. Yeah. She seems to have no problem.
And I think it actually made her look more boyish at the end of it.
Yeah, it's really odd.
Yeah.
We'll get to the scene where it's the actual reveal.
Yeah.
But we find out Jeannie has a brother and a father, and really they only exist so other girls can have sex with them. We only see her brother for this one scene. He walks in while they're jumping around, and he goes, "Excuse me, would you keep it down? Mm-hmm. I gotta study." Mm-hmm. And they're all like, yeah. But Jovita Bush has her eye on him.
Yeah.
Who's that? Oh, it's just my dumb brother. So we then cut to her finding him, and he's just masturbating with the door open. Door open. Like in a hallway, not even in the room. All we see is a shot of him jacking it, like from behind him, in front of an open door and a hallway in front of him. And Jovita just walks in and...
Yeah, and he's kind of like, she interrupts him. Like, interrupts him. Like, he's kind of like, oh...
He doesn't even see her walk up. He's so intent on looking at that picture in that magazine. He doesn't even notice her. And she walks over and she says,
I see you've got a hard problem.
What?
I might have an answer for that.
He's kind of like the Rain Man thing going at this point.
You think everybody in her family's slow?
Just the whole dynamic of this family is something else. It needs to be examined by the most qualified professional out there, but please continue.
So then we cut to the other cheerleader, which I guess they've just left Jeannie in her room alone. Walking up while Jeannie's dad's putting golf balls in his study. She picks him up and she says,
Hey, Mr. Davis, you've got really cute balls.
So in that one, they're not even trying to hide it. It's just like...
They couldn't come up with anything wittier.
We're running thin. We only got 3 people.
They went to a sports chalet and found anything they could find an innuendo out of. Just kind of threw it around a room instead of...
They're walking under like, baseball, no, that's too obvious.
Soccer.
Here we go, I found some golf balls. So then Jeannie walks into the room, nips out. Like, it must be real cold in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's got the clothes from the teddy bear on, and the camera just pans right down to her chest. And her dad gets so angry, he explodes a Coke in his face.
Yeah. Which is, I think, foreshadowing for something later involving the dad. We'll find out, though.
So she's, like, distraught for some reason after this. And she says, I'll never make cheerleader. They're consoling her in her room at this point. And she says to them, as the camera slowly zooms into her face,
I'll never make cheerleaders.
Don't worry, you can take off that stupid harness as soon as we get out of here.
But I'll never be as good as you. Cheerleaders get all the boys and everything.
And she's about to cry. It's like a tear is going to drop from her face.
Yeah, I might add that the camera pans in way too much. Like, it could have stopped like 6 seconds before the actual scene
holds on the
stopped.
shot for a while. And they say, no, you're fine. What about your boyfriend, Norman? She says,
Norman, he's my boyfriend, but I hate him.
We need to set her up with Kim.
And they ask her, they go, and here's where the reveal is. You aren't a virgin, are you? And she says yes.
Boom.
And the cheerleaders say, I didn't know there were any left in California, and a couple other lines. And she says, again with a slow zoom on her face,
I'll never make cheerleaders and I have to put up with that stupid idiot, Norman. And you're my only friends and you're better at everything than me. And if I don't make cheerleaders, I'll be up for the rest of my life.
For the rest of her life. If she doesn't make cheerleaders, this is her one chance to bang. This is it. She's got to get it done, and she is not getting it done right now. She is on a rough patch.
She needs some counseling in her life. She has no one but this boyfriend who I think is kind of... it's a very codependent relationship, I can tell at this point.
I feel like he's perfect for her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, she shouldn't even...
They're so terrified of each other, it seems, that they hate each other for it. You know
well,
what
she
I mean?
tries, and we'll see her try in a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So we cut to another football game, because like I said, this movie really only has about 4 locations. And Norman, her boyfriend, is actually on the football team, and he's mowing the lawn in a uniform. So not only do they have to practice, but they also have to mow the lawn for the field, apparently.
Which is kind of fascinating when there's a custodian around who we'll be introduced to later. Why is he not doing any of these things?
Yeah. Wait a second. Whoa. They do have a custodian.
Yes.
But he's just standing in the corner watching them.
Yeah.
Like, almost jerking it himself.
Yeah.
While the football player is actually mowing the lawn for him.
Yeah, we see him do some very limp-wristed work. Like, he puts no effort into whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
But here we have kids mowing lawns on the football field.
So they're holding cheerleader tryouts, and everybody is, like, god-awful. All of them, including Jeannie. Mm-hmm. Just terrible. But it seems like they've already made her mind up and she's going to make the team. And especially because she says she's a virgin. Because there's that one part where one of the cheerleaders walks up to the cheerleader coach and says she's a virgin. And the cheerleader coach responds like, "Oh my God, I didn't know they existed anymore." And then
like she's some relic from the past.
They found the missing link.
Yeah.
It was like the Ark of the Covenant. Like,
it exists. Let's not preserve it. Let's just destroy it in any way we can.
my favorite part of this scene is when a football player runs through the tryouts, holding a dildo, and says, "Hey girls, there is more where this came from."
Yeah.
2 questions. Where did he get that? Did he just bring this out the whole practice and he's like, "Oh, this is gonna pay off great." Where did he put it?
That was my question. Because we know
where was this cap before this
definitely
one?
was not in his helmet. We can guarantee that much.
And what does it mean when he walks by holding a dildo and says there's more where this came from? I don't really get it. Like,
it's another one of those ill thought out jokes that they thought if it goes by quick enough, they'll think it's funny for no reason. And there's plenty of that to come.
There's actually a lot of genuine laughs I got out of this movie.
But a lot of them,
it's hilarious.
But a lot of them are unintentional. Is the problem?
Very, very unintentional. But there are some jokes that hit hard. Like it is actually a very funny.
I know what we're thinking. I know the one.
So they tell her, Jeannie, you've made the team, and your initiation is to go into the boys' locker room. Now, I'm going to slow it down here for a second, because what we're about to witness is something that probably should have never been in any movie ever.
No.
Jeannie goes into the boys' shower to take a shower, but then the whole football team shows up, and they, I would guess, say, attempt to shower rape her.
Right, but they're all wearing towels and putting her at a serious disadvantage.
Yeah, she's fully naked. They're all in towels and just grabbing at her and laughing, and she looks horrified. Like she wants to get out of there, and they're all just like tackling each other on the ground, and she's trying to crawl away and blah, blah, blah. I guess is she trying to get laid, or is she just like terrified at the prospect, or is she, I don't know.
Or the water's just really cold.
But Norman shows up, and he's like, "Jeannie, what are you doing?" And then he jumps into the pile, and it basically, the scene ends with all the football players on top of each other, like they're still having an orgy, but there's no woman involved.
And her boyfriend's like, how dare you lose your virginity before me? I'm getting this done first. While she runs away.
And I like how she said, they ask her, "Why are you in here?" And she says, "I'm being initiated." So like they do this to every cheerleader. It's like, okay, well, you made the team. Now it's time you get shower raped by the whole team.
Which, if the team is asking why is she there, that's obviously not a normal practice. If the team doesn't know
exactly. They ask why she's there. They probably would have walked in and been like, "Oh, wait, great, a new one." You know?
New initiate. It must be that time of the year.
Hey.
Boys, get ready.
Here come the boys.
Here come the boys.
So then we go back to the burger place after Jeannie's almost raped, and John's talking to a blonde cheerleader who is, my guess, is like 30. She looks way older than any of the others. She's terribly
cast in this movie.
But she's supposedly really dumb. And there's that nice part where he like asks her a question and she answers it dumb, and then he just grabs her boobs and he goes, "Boy, if these were brains, you'd be an Albert Einstein," or something like that.
Yeah.
So then the burger guy's hitting on one of the cheerleaders, and he says something like, "Do you want to make a top 10 list?" She's like, "If there's a list I'm not on, I'm very upset about it." "You better take me in that back room and show me that list," and boy does he. This is where, like, the sex scenes before this are just kind of iffy, but this one is like, he's going at her on the fry machine, and it's like, there's a little too much. Like,
he's like a sailor on leave.
Yeah, he is like, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But my favorite part is that he puts the fries in the fryer before they start going. And he says, like, you just hear in voiceover, it's like, "Can you watch this for a minute?"
Yeah.
And then, like, after the sex scene, which There's one part where the cheerleader like looks into the camera, like breaks the. Well, I guess they do break the fourth wall again, and she just kind of like stares at the audience, like, like with a horrified look.
Are the fries done?
And then we just get a cut of the fries.
Well, they're kind of boiling over. They're kind of. I think the fries are done. Is what we're getting.
They're done.
Oh, they're done. All right.
So then we go into the coach's office. Oh God. If you thought you were going to see a middle-aged man in a adjusted jockstrap, you were right. He's like sitting there playing with toys on the ground and like...
He's like living his glory days to a recording of himself.
Yes, he's listening to a recording of himself playing a big football game. And he's telling the head cheerleader who's there with her top off, oh, this is where I'm going to do it. This is where I'm going to do it. And then there's this weird part where she just like keeps putting on new sports equipment and it like cuts back to him and he'll blow a whistle and then she'll be in like different sports equipment and like keep in mind he's the football coach,
right?
And then he keeps blowing the whistle and it cuts back and she's like touching a basketball. He blows the whistle again. She's got like a baseball bat.
They should just, I don't know, where was the badminton?
Yeah,
back at this point.
It was like they almost got there, but they're like, yeah, it's going on a little long. This scene lasts for like 5 minutes. Oh, well, it's not even over at that point because then while the audio's still going, he goes over and like has sex with her to it. And right when he scores, he scores.
Yeah. I mean, he timed it perfectly. It's like he's done this before many times.
The next few scenes, it gets worse and worse and worse until it crescendos and literally explodes on the screen by the end of this movie. So let's go to it here. The next scene, we get to them working out in the gym and they're stretching. And they ask Jeannie, so since you've joined the team, have you lost your virginity yet? She says no.
Right.
One of the girls comes over, and this, I know I say this a lot, but this is actually my favorite scene in the entire movie. She gives a monologue that is absolutely amazing. She sits down and she says,
When I was 13, I rode my bike into the gas station to get air in my tires. The guy said he had a special hose for that. He did.
Well, she's proud of it. She is proud of it.
At 13, this girl was raped by a gas station attendant. And she remembers it fondly.
Oh. The lows keep getting lower.
So, okay, then they're like working out. The old one, we finally found out her name is Patty. And the coach like keeps her afterwards. And then we find like, oh, the coach is attracted to her. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll go into that. So like there's a lesbian sex scene between her and the coach.
Yeah.
To Beethoven's Fifth.
Right. This was after Clockwork Orange, I'm assuming. So maybe that was the inspiration?
I feel like it was royalty free.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was very Kubrick to me.
They're like, we can't play the same one song throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, 2 songs throughout the whole movie.
Soft folk.
So we gotta have something different. What can we put in here? I don't know. Put in some Beethoven.
It's classy. It's sophisticated.
It's classy. It's free. I don't even know what you would call that type of machine with like the belt that shakes you.
Yeah, it's like from the 1950s. And it's supposed to make
everybody's seen one of these. And if you've ever seen a picture of it, just like somebody standing and like this belt vibrates or something.
Right.
So they just have it like vibrating on their butts.
But they're pressed together front to front, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
I think I applauded that creative ingenuity.
Well, it's very clear that the people who wrote this movie and the director have no idea how lesbians have sex because they are just clueless because they just kind of stand there and look at each other in this vibrating machine. And then they're on an exercise bike, like a rowing machine, and they're just rowing and kind of pawing at each other, but like they have no idea.
Right, they're sitting tandem with each other, like just almost in each other's lap, but on top of each other in a way. And you don't know, it's kind of like they're kind of feeling around like, what's this going to do for you? Like they don't know how it works, and because the directors have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not Beethoven's Fifth, it's Fur Elise.
Like it matters at this point. No one gives a shit.
So then you're like, well, we've had, about 4 sex scenes in a row. We can't get another, right? Nope. We get onto the bus, and Jeannie's getting a ride home with one of the other cheerleaders. And the other cheerleader asks her if she's still a virgin, I think, which is like, of course she is. She just fucking left school. I mean, well, the way they are, I mean, maybe she thought on the way to the bus.
This is between classes. They are getting jobs done.
Whenever these girls see a guy, they just pounce on him. And like, I think, and we'll learn at one point, that's why Jeannie just can't get laid, because they are just taking it all. They're taking all the action from her.
Yeah, they are leaving her with a drought.
If you have a dick and you move, they're going for you. Like, they're gunning for you.
Yeah, they're insatiable. They cannot be bargained with, cannot be reasoned with.
No, and we'll soon learn that on this bus scene. Is the redhead says, "Oh, here, I'll help you." She walks over to a complete stranger sitting on the bus, and this man is dirty. He looks like he just got out of prison.
Yeah.
He has a really, really dirty wife beater on. She walks up to him, sits down in the chair next to him, grabs his junk, and says,
"Keep a cool, fool. I'm wise to the rise in your Levi."
And then unzips his pants and reaches in, and we think like, oh, please don't actually pull out the penis in the shot.
It was literally seconds away.
It goes on for like a good 10 seconds. You're like, no, please don't. And then it cuts, and she's just pouncing on this guy. And there's people in the bus watching, and you can see this great extra, this girl just almost looking in disgust. Like she did. I almost feel like they filmed this without people knowing what was going on.
Exactly what I was thinking too.
Because the girl in the back looks mortified.
Yeah.
She's the one girl who has like a natural reaction to what they're doing to
Everyone
people.
else is kind of like laughing it off, like, oh, those cheerleaders.
Yeah, the guy sitting in front of them just looks back and goes,
that was me yesterday.
So then they like the bus pulls up, Jeannie and that guy gets out. He's like stumbling around because
he's been fucked off.
Yeah.
whatever they say at the end of this movie.
Jeannie's just standing outside your house, and Norman pulls up, and apparently neither of them notice each other, and he walks into her with a bag full of groceries. It is the worst setup gag, but it's so brilliant. He runs into her, and then he goes, "What are you trying to do, get me fired?" It's like, well, it's your fault, buddy. Why don't you watch your frickin' step while you're getting off your
You're the one
damn...
who's on the clock here, not her.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So he runs into her, they're like sprawled out on the ground, groceries everywhere, and she tries to come on to him by like saying all these lines she heard the redhead say just wrong. I can't even repeat them, they're so bad.
Yeah.
Like, they are so freaking terrible.
It's like she wrote words and innuendo on Jenga blocks and just threw them around the room and just kind of reorganized them, and she would hope to make a sentence out of one of those. And that's what comes off.
And again, IQ arguably below 50. So she tries to come on to him, and he doesn't want it.
No.
He's just like, what is wrong with you? Like, she is just a horrible person for even suggesting. And he does say that thing, "What's gotten into you?" And she says, "Nothing, that's the problem."
Yeah.
Still doesn't get it. No. This guy just does not get it. So then you think we're done with the bus, but we're not.
No, the driver has yet to be satisfied.
And this is where my theory is really going to come into play. We see this bizarro scene where the redhead screws the bus driver to mariachi music, and it goes on for a little bit, but then all of a sudden, and keep in mind, the same guy who wrote, directed, produced, also edited this movie, so this was clearly in his mind for this scene, is he like stops and starts, like all of a sudden the camera will freeze, and then he'll rewind a few frames, and then he like plays it back like he's scratching a record.
To the beat of the song. And it's very
to the beat of the song. Then the scene ends by showing the bus, and it just disappears out of thin air.
To the beat, the song ends, and like, and the bus is gone.
It's gone. Like, there's still a shot of the street, and the bus just disappears completely.
Like, she fucked him into subatomic universe.
This is what I'm telling you. This is a warning call, this movie. Like, all the signs are there. He's trying to tell us something.
Atomic oblivion.
The next thing we have is we find out the janitor is going to play a little bit bigger role than we thought before. Is he's like in some weird wig, but everybody can still tell who he is.
Oh, yeah.
And he's giving John pot. And then he says, and here's the only plot in the entire movie. because we are a good hour in at this point, and we need to like come up with some sort of resolution. So he says, "Oh, the fix is in. We need Amorosa to lose the football game."
Yeah, like who's placing these bets? Who's making these bets?
Doesn't matter.
Right.
They just needed to come up with some sort of plot.
It all starts with the fix is in.
The fix is in.
I'm rolling with it.
Amorosa needs to lose, and John just goes, "Yeah, whatever." He says a lot more lines in rhyme.
No, Vima, man. Don't pout. Little John's gonna work it out.
Then we cut over to the cheerleaders writing a... Jeannie still cannot get it done. Cannot get it done. They say, well, maybe we should write a classified ad in a sex magazine.
Let's see. 16-year-old virgin. Desperate. Will be in front of Mike's Carousel Saturday morning at 10 o'clock.
No, what we need is a hard sell. Come get a cheerleader snatch, never a key in the latch.
Meet me at the park at 10 a.m. I can only, I'm sitting there theorizing what type of man would respond to this ad. First of all, 10 a.m.
Yes.
Jesus, that's early.
Bright and early.
But then John shows up and they go, oh, well, maybe John can help. So they say, hey, go take care of Jeannie. She's never done it. He walks over and puts his hand right down her shirt. I mean, I've never seen anybody talk to somebody this creepily before. He puts his arm around her and just sticks his fingers right down into the deep part of the bra.
Right.
Just right in there, and starts talking to her, feeding fries to her creepily. But she's all for it. She's ready to go.
Yeah.
Raring to go. We cut back to Norman, and the guy goes, hey, Norman, isn't that your girl? And he goes, what girl? So it looks like it's over between those two.
Yeah. I would have loved to see that breakup sequence.
Yeah, that would have been great if Norman confronted John.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you ever see them talk to each other. I don't think you really see John talk to anybody except the cheerleaders or the janitor.
No, Big John, right?
Which, maybe I'm coming up with another theory, is that John doesn't actually exist.
Ooh. You might be onto something there.
John is just a figment of everybody's imagination.
In this dimension.
Maybe Jeannie doesn't exist, and then Norman looks out and goes, what girl? If the bus can disappear, anything can disappear. There are no rules in this movie. We go to we think it's John's house, and they're making out on a bed, but then we see some arm come in and change the radio station to some really weird music.
Yeah.
And we find out that somebody else is there. So John goes, I'm going to turn off the lights. He turns off a desk lamp. And then all of a sudden, all these weird colored disco lights go on in the room. And Jeannie is amazed by this. She sits up in the bed and she just goes, wow, magic.
Yeah, this is her own personal Disneyland fantasy going on.
IQ? Should this girl even be in high school? Should they have allowed her to be a cheerleader? Should she be trying to have sex? The answer to all these questions is no. No. So
I think if they had a blow-up doll between the two of her and tried to ask one of them a question, you wouldn't tell which one was which.
So then the janitor's there, and apparently this is the janitor's house, which he's got a pretty nice house on a janitor's salary.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he's also a drug dealer and some sort of betting fixer.
Which, in my opinion, okay, now it's brilliant. It's a brilliant background for this guy. So it explains everything, his ins, his outs, and why he's so financially, reputable.
When he's getting that weed from John and tells him, or giving the weed to John and tells him that he needs to fix the game, he also says, what about the goods?
Yeah.
The goods you promised me.
Right.
The goods. We don't know what the goods are, but we know what they are.
Yeah.
He wants some of that young action.
I turn you on, you turn me on, right? When are you gonna start delivering the goods you've been promising me?
Sure, Daddy. Don't get your liver in a quiver. Just go home and sit tight. This could be your night.
Yeah.
Which is even weirder because there's a scene I didn't even mention where the cheerleaders are in the locker room and he's looking at them through a peephole. And the main cheerleader actually says, what about that creepy janitor? And they're like, oh, he's kind of creepy. And she goes, yeah, but we'd give it to him if he asked. And he's watching them, but he still doesn't ask. He's just
And he still has to resort to luring them in via John and then switching out with John in a bear suit.
It's obviously his fetish. Like, this is what he wants, is he wants them in a moment of weakness. I
guess so.
So we cut back to John and Jeannie making out on this couch. And the janitor keeps bugging him. He's like under the couch trying to grab. Oh yeah, she says, John.
Gosh, I never thought it would be like this. You and me together. Your hand on my breast, your other hand on my tummy, your other hand on my leg.
Your other hand on my tummy. Again, not a word that an adult would use. On my tummy.
Oh, man.
And your other hand on my leg.
And she still doesn't put it together.
3 hands. She does not get it. Again, should she be in this position? Are we watching a mentally challenged girl be raped at this moment? Like, it's very uncomfortable. John knows he's got to pull this bait and switch. So he says, you know what will really turn me on? Suck my toes. And we see her like, the whole part, that his feet are dirty and she's just going to town on him. But then for some reason, Jeannie still doesn't know what she's doing, starts like leaping up and down on the couch. Like, and hard. The thing is, you can hear breaking wood. And the janitor's like below her.
He's getting up on it.
He's somehow getting off on this.
Yeah, because she's bouncing up and down. That, to him, that's doing the job.
So she sucks his toes so hard and jumps on this thing so hard, she breaks the couch and her leg goes through and like kicks the janitor almost. And she gets up and goes, did I do good? And he goes, yeah, best toe job I've ever had. So then they go into the room, and for some reason she like changes into new clothes.
Yeah.
She immediately goes over to a closet and finds all this lingerie and starts changing, like just whose lingerie is this? It seems to me almost like a serial killer type scenario.
It is. It's very almost hostile like.
Yeah.
Very Eli Roth.
Yeah. And she starts trying on all these wigs.
Yeah.
And you notice that one part when she grabs a wig and it's the janitor's face under the wig.
Yeah.
Right? And he's got his tongue out.
Yeah.
So this guy apparently has like all sorts of like, this is his own house. And he has all sorts of like trap doors and stuff for himself to like be a pervert. It's like, dude, if you got the woman in there, the work's already done. Like, in what scenario would this head under a wig work for you? Like,
because the wig is going to come off at some point. They're going,
it's such a specific gag. It's like so specific. Because he keeps saying, I want her dressed up. I want her dressed up.
Because we thought he was saying, we want her messed up.
Yeah, when I first saw this movie, I thought he was saying, I want her messed up, well, mess her up.
She kind of already is messed up in a way.
Yeah.
So job done.
And again, Jeannie doesn't drink or do drugs. Thank God. Thank God they don't intoxicate this poor girl.
Like, someone must have slammed a door into her mom's stomach when she was that's the full term.
Yeah, I think the dad was poking her with a baseball bat in the abdomen constantly. They go into the room. We get the janitor under the wig gag, which is a real classic.
It doesn't get old.
Then we see the sex scene ensue between John and Jeannie. And it's like a full 3 minutes of him trying to remove her panties. And it's very awkward. Very, very awkward. Because it never cuts, never moves. It's almost like he couldn't get it done. And they were just like, just leave it all in. We have nothing else to cut to. Leave the whole shot in. So then she gets on top of him. We think it's finally going to happen. And then all of a sudden, the janitor pops up.
In a bear suit. To his left.
In a bear suit.
Yeah. To his left.
And leans in and he says,
when is it my turn?
And we're saying leaning in. This is within earshot.
She's right next to him. I don't know how she didn't notice this bear. Again, IQ score.
And she's on top.
It's almost as if he puts his bare nose in front of her face between them and says, when is it my turn? When is it my turn?
Yeah.
And she goes, what did you say? And he says, oh, baby, you make me burn.
Yeah. Which I think that's not a compliment.
And at that point, if Jeannie, again, had a brain, she might be like, oh, burning. I don't know. That doesn't sound good. He decides, all right. I got to get this janitor in here at some time. I'm not here for my own pleasure. This is all business trip here. So he says, I'm going to walk out of the room real quick, but I got a surprise for you. And if you thought this scene was going to end in a Benny Hill-esque chase scene, you'd be correct. Because we get the old multiple door trick, like it's a Scooby-Doo episode, and they walk out of the room. He walks out of this room. On one side, there's 3 doors, right? He walks out one door. She walks out another and goes, John, where are you? He sends her back in. The bear comes out. Then for no reason at all, the main cheerleader shows up.
Right.
And she's walking through doors. And
she's really suspicious.
She's very suspicious. I don't even know why she's there. Nobody tipped her off to anything like this. She just shows up. She just shows up for no reason other than to be in this chase scene. The bear suit gets...
somehow miraculously ends up on her. We don't know how.
It is a straight up Scooby-Doo, like Benny Hill type scene. It makes no sense. And it finally ends with a loud scream and like a transition of water, like a wave coming on the screen. And Jeannie coming out of a door on a water slide, like she's flushed out by a popped waterbed.
Yeah,
and like she's having a great time. Like
again, IQ. She thinks she got laid at this point.
But this scene ends in the most Like if you thought the bus disappearing was weird, how about a waterbed popping and her riding it out of a room like a water slide?
And the transition from that to the next scene is even better.
Yeah. So they transition with the wave thing, right?
Yeah.
Into a miniature golf game.
Yep.
And this is like where they were deciding like, oh, we got to get some real interesting angles. So there's like angles of like from the hole's point of view and a girl reaching into it. All sorts of weird things. And she's telling him about her sex scene and she goes, John was great, but there was some bear there.
Yeah,
she noticed the bear at some point. And the girls respond with, a bear? And she's just like, yeah. and then the main cheerleader is learning how to putt while some little person is holding her and going like, yeah, it's all in the hips, baby. And they call her over and she goes, oh, I gotta go. And the little person just gets inside the windmill.
Goes back home.
Like, so there's just like a midget living in a windmill at this golf course.
In this movie, makes perfect sense.
So now we get to the second best part of this movie, which is the biker guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sal and Vinny, who are a real couple of cut-ups. Like
they're up to it all right.
These are the type of guys that you would run from. Yeah. If you even saw them anywhere, you would definitely walk the other way. You would avoid them. And even, this is the only time in the movie where the cheerleaders are like, no, no. But Jeannie sees them and goes, they're wonderful. And the other ones go, really? Like, even they're like, Jeannie, please. Yeah. She loves it. She's all into it. They call him out. They go, hey, how you doing? She asks what your name is or something, and Sal just constantly spray paints his name everywhere. And his introduction is so amazing because he just walks up to this fence and grabs his spray can and graffitis his name onto the nearest sign. It just says, hey, my name's Sal, and then goes ahead and...
Yeah, and him and Jeannie are made for each other.
So Claudia, the main cheerleader, she says she'll help Jeannie out, right? Yeah. If you want to do it, I guess I'll do it. Because even Claudia's standards are just so sub-level that she'll, like, take one for the team here.
And these guys are just like, they're wearing things they found in a junkyard wrapped around their waist.
They look like they got out of prison, went to a junkyard to find clothing, and went to the nearest miniature golf course.
To find ways to violate their probation. immediately.
Definitely should not be around underage girls.
No.
There's no way. And they actually say, we'll follow you to your house, and like, this is a good idea. Claudia's like, all right, whatever. So they're going to Claudia's house, and she pulls up and she goes, well, I hope they don't show up because my mom's having a bridge party. Now, if you thought every other scene in this movie was awkward, this, by far, the craziest shit in this entire movie. Because if you thought a girl was going to be borderline raped in front of a bunch of old women playing bridge, you'd be correct.
Yep. The lows keep getting lower.
So before they shows up, Claudia says you got to be mean to them.
Oh yeah, hard to get.
That's how they like it.
Yeah.
And no matter how much they resist, you got to keep being mean to them and hitting them.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes first and just starts wailing on Sal and gets on top of him, starts slapping him and hitting him. And so he just like rolls on top of her, and we watch for a good 3 minutes as he like borderline rapes her in the garden. And the sounds that come out of her mouth are so awkward.
No, they're terrifying.
It's amazing. Like at some point, she's certainly not enjoying it.
No, you would be amazed that the old ladies playing bridge do not come out to assist at this point.
There's no way they wouldn't notice. It's right next to them. And there's a woman getting raped not 10 feet from them. And they're just playing their bridge game.
Unbelievable.
So Jeannie takes the cue from Claudia and starts beating Vinny up. And they're going at it. And then, Chris, who shows up? Who shows up to the scene?
Good old Dad. Right on time.
Jeannie's dad pulls his car up, and he sees a girl getting topless, and he's interested. He's looking.
Kind of boning out through the window, like, oh boy, Daddy's home.
And then
we see the reveal of this topless girl, and she pokes her head up, and it's Jeannie, and oh man, oh
and she
boy.
He goes, Jeannie? And she goes, Daddy? And then he like crashes his car.
Yeah.
And then Jeannie goes running topless through the bridge party, and Vinny comes running after her and knocks over the table. Mm-hmm. And then the dad comes over.
And like we didn't see this coming a mile away.
There was a fountain they kept showing over and over, and guess who falls in? Dad.
Dad makes a splash.
Now, you know what's even weirder? I don't know if you noticed this, because this is the first time I noticed this. When the dad runs into that scene and falls into the fountain, he has the word Sal graffitied onto his shirt.
Really?
Yeah. So at some point, Sal met up with his dad and graffitied his name onto his shirt. When did this happen?
Hold still.
So then we go to the pep rally. Nothing happens there except for the janitor telling John the team's got to lose, and he says he's got it. Then Jeannie says, my dad's still pissed off about that bridge party, but I didn't do anything. And it's like, I think you did. Mm-hmm. I think you did. So I can't go to the slumber party, and one of the cheerleaders goes, well, we'll just have it at your house. So I think we know where this is going.
Great logic. The writers, standing ovation.
These women are wearing, and I can't even call them women, these girls are wearing so little clothing that just boobs are popping out left and right. One of them, Claudia, is actually just wearing a sheer nightgown. Like
a nightie, man. You can see right through it.
It holds nothing back. No. There's nothing left to the imagination. The dad keeps coming in again and again, offering more food.
The hot dogs, the weenies.
Hot dogs, weenies.
And some dip. You like the dip?
Yeah. One of the girls goes, oh, if he keeps showing up, he's going to ruin the party. So Claudia says, I'll take care of him, and goes in and just fucks him.
Yeah.
I like that scene when it cuts to him and he's watching football really awkwardly. He's like, yes, do it, right there, going perfect.
Give him protection. That's it. He's looking down. Throw it now. Oh, that's a beauty. It's all the way down.
He's like the Ned Flanders of the movie, in a way.
So then the whole football team shows up to the basement, and apparently none of the parents know that they're there. Mm-hmm. They walk into the slumber party, and a mass orgy ensues immediately. These cheerleaders are grabbing guys, forcing themselves onto them. Forcing themselves. There's a part where one guy gets finished, and another one goes on top of him and turns him over from when he tries to lay down, and she goes, hold on, it's my turn, and just leaps on top of him and forces herself in.
I mean, this would make Caligula blush, to be honest.
It is a mass orgy, and during this, Jeannie is still trying to get laid.
And this is actually her fault for not taking advantage of the situation because it's going on around her. Why? She's just a wallflower the whole time.
You know, this movie answers the question: is it possible for a virgin not to get laid in a room full of 100 dicks?
Question answered.
Question answered.
Yeah.
Yes. A resounding yes. She tries, but she just can't get it in. Nothing. She, even at one point, while some guy's in the middle of the act, she walks over and taps his shoulder and says, like, oh, can I get my turn?
Yeah.
So they're all, like, dead tired. And I say the word dead because they are figuratively, like, dead.
Yeah, they are just a mound of bodies. Secretions all over them.
These women have screwed the team so hard that they are, like, just, they can't even move anymore. And while one girl is just like still just kind of riding on top of a guy, like she doesn't even want it at that point. She's just like, oh, I gotta do more. Jeannie comes up and whispers in her ear and says, oh, I still didn't get it done. And she goes, oh, hey, somebody help Jeannie. She still hasn't done it. And then some guy,
I'll do it.
Some guy from drinking like chugging down a bottle of milk.
Yeah.
What a gentleman. Oh, got her. So he walks over, but he can't even get to her. He just collapses over this mound of bodies. Then Claudia runs into the room and goes,
thank you, Claudia.
I can't believe you fucked out our whole team. How are we going to win tomorrow?
Oh, man.
So she says they got to go over to Central. So this is one of the best parts in the movie where they go find every member of the rival football team and fuck them out.
Yeah, they are literally grabbing guys off the streets.
The first scene we see is this happy music start, which they play all the time. And they go into a gas station and just pull a man into the car.
And the attendant is left with a gas nozzle in his hand, still spewing gas, like, what happened? Like, mouth agape.
If you don't watch the movie, that shot's in the trailer.
Yeah.
Then they go into the theater and they rape a guy in the theater. He's there with his girlfriend and it cuts to the screen. It cuts back to him and one of the cheerleaders whispers in his ear and he goes, what? One of them appears under his chair and pulls him up by his feet.
Yeah.
They force him onto the ground and one of them's on top of him while another one's shoving popcorn into his mouth to shut him up.
Like the physicality involved in the planning of this, the execution of this operation is just mind-boggling.
They go and they screw a guy at the car depot or whatever, some car mechanic place, and it just, again, the editing starts to get real weird, and it just shows this car thing going up and down, and then it just starts cutting between it really fast, and you're just like, stop. And I said that the car should have disappeared. Like, I was so hoping that would have happened.
We're just a naked guy left on the lift.
There's that one part where she even tries to drive the car while it's on the lift. And this guy's trying to get away. He's like trying to crawl through the windshield and they're like clawing him back into the car. Oh, there's that part where the guy's lifting weights in his bedroom. Can you see this shot of him lifting weights like this? He's going lifting, and there's only a profile shot, so you see his stomach up.
The next rep, the next pump, if you will. There was a girl in his arms.
Instead
like,
of
how'd she get there?
And it just freeze frames on his reaction going, huh? But this all ends in, I know I've said it a few times, this is my favorite scene in the whole movie because this is incredible. There's two guys sitting at a table in a restaurant. And the guy was with his dad at the restaurant and he goes, so son, are you boys going to beat Amorosa tomorrow? We sure are. And then the waiter drops off the pizza. Do you remember the line he said?
Oh, pepperoni.
Hey, you boys going to beat Amorosa tomorrow? We sure will. Oh boy, pepperoni.
Oh boy, pepperoni. And then what happens, Chris?
And literally, not even a beat after that sentence ends, a woman explodes from beneath the table, through the tablecloth, through the pizza, and just arms outstretched like I'm here, and just grabs him and just
freeze frames on her just going Zah! Like she just pops out of the table.
Was she topless? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's topless.
Oh boy, pepperoni. Yeah. Like
first off, how did she know they were going to sit at that table? How long did she wait topless underneath a table? She just kind of.
And the best part is for them to actually order. She was there the whole time while they're ordering drinks. What
if it was the wrong guy?
Sorry, wrong table.
But she goes and does it anyways.
Oh my god.
Talk about taking one for the team.
So then we cut to the football team, and both teams are just collapsing on the field because they've all been, quote, fucked out.
Yeah.
These cheerleaders have sucked the life from them.
Yeah. God
Absolutely, the entire life force.
God bless them.
I have to say, there has never been a time in my life where the next day I am so exhausted from having sex that I just can't even stand up.
No, let alone roll out of bed.
Yeah. I don't even know how these guys got to the field. They're so tired. They're in no condition to play a football game. They're in no condition to drive. I mean, they're in no condition to do anything.
They couldn't have put on their clothes that morning. It just couldn't have happened. But I mean, you could. I'm saying their logic in this movie, the science behind it, they have been dehydrated in every sense.
So they're all almost dead on the field. But there's one guy for the other team. Well, oh no. The first points in the game come when the cheerleader is like mooning a guy for Central, the other team. Yeah. And he's just looking at her with the football, and he walks into his own end zone and hits the pole when he walks in.
And the ref, what does he call?
He calls it a safety. They get 2 points. So, like, they get him to walk into his own end zone. Safety, 2 points. So, Amorosa up by 2.
Yeah.
But then, there's one guy before the half ends for Central who they didn't know about. He wasn't on the scouting report. And this guy runs past everybody and runs in a touchdown. And
he's got to go.
He's got to go. They got to take care of him.
Mm-hmm.
So the cheerleaders decide that they must stop this man. So they got to go into the locker room and fuck him out.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeannie says she'll do it, but Claudia doesn't trust her. So that she says, you're going to need some help, and she sends them. That's when the janitor...
Cue the chloroform.
Chloroforms the other 2 cheerleaders, leaving Jeannie alone with her long-lost soulmate,
and
the virgin on the other team.
And it's just so uncomfortable that this janitor even has chloroform on him.
Yeah, I know. Like, Jesus, this guy.
Yeah. Like, ready to go.
Yeah, so he, like, chloroforms these 2 girls and brings them into his janitor closet.
Yeah.
Jeannie goes into the locker room and sees this other football player, and he says something like, did you see a football team come through here?
And we have the most awkward setup for a scene ever. The dialogue in this is just
absolutely
embarrassing.
Made for each other, though.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And that's why it's so good.
He's got definitely the same IQ as her.
Mm-hmm.
He's about the same speed.
He's taken enough hits to the head to be at her level.
He's definitely a virgin as well.
Yeah.
They like get real close to each other. Church organ music starts playing. And he says, Jeannie, I think I love you. And then they start doing it. Still to a church organ scene, which is really off-putting. Mm-hmm. Very long sex scene. Then we cut to the same song they always play, and he's going to town on her, they're done. He comes out on the field and collapses himself.
Yep, job done.
And then the other 2 cheerleaders run out while Jeannie's with everybody else, and Claudia says, oh my God, you guys got him. And they go, no, we ran into a little bit of a problem. But apparently they like tied the janitor up in his closet. Yeah. But then they go, well, who got him? And they look at Jeannie. She did it. Then both sides just fall onto the ground. And I feel like Jeannie feels about Norman at this point. Norman makes one more fucking appearance. He's always has some sort of new job. And now he's selling hot dogs while being a football player.
Yeah. He's dressed as a football player.
And this guy is so goddamn dumb that the coach tells him, get on the field, you're in the game, and he's like, but I got hot dogs to sell. And he's still trying to sell hot dogs. He goes, Norman, pick up the ball. He puts it in his hot dog thing. And she's so goddamn dumb. He can't even get the idea that he's in the game yet. He's still trying to sell hot dogs.
And then he starts selling hot dogs to the team, I think. At one point.
Yeah. So like Claudia just stands in the end zone and she goes, 50 hot dogs. He goes, 50?
Yeah.
Like he's all excited about it. So he runs down the field and gives the other football players hot dogs while he's running down. He scores the winning touchdown. They win the game. Everything's resolved. We never find out about the janitor. We never see John again.
Nothing's resolved in that end.
We don't even see Jeannie again. This is the end of the movie. It just ends with a shot of a car wash with all the cheerleaders except Jeannie, like topless in this car, attacking something. And then you find out over the credits.
Yeah.
It's Norman.
Yep. So he is the one who benefits at the end of this movie because he's the one getting an orgy on in a car wash.
Yeah.
And where's Jeannie? Who cares? Who knows? She wasn't smart enough.
Yeah, she's done. I think she died.
I think she got lost.
I think
trying to get off the field. She couldn't find her way to her car.
I think she got hit by a bus. I thought it would have been amazing if this movie ended with the football team just disappearing. The cheerleaders disappearing.
Yeah, to the music.
The fans disappearing. The bleachers disappearing. And like you said, eventually
we're going to pan out to the earth.
And then the earth just disappears. If this movie had ended this way, it would have been perfect.
Oh, we can still make it happen.
But instead of it ending that way, it has the scene where Norman's getting raped in a car wash. And then it cuts to black, but before it's done, we get one more shot of one cheerleader flashing the camera
for a split second. Like they had to use all the film they had.
I don't think anything got left on the cutting room floor for this movie. We have been talking about this movie for way too long, so I have to get to Chris.
Yeah,
would you recommend it?
Okay. With the doors locked, the drapes...
Yeah, let's be very clear.
The blinds drawn, door locked, lights off, nobody home, headphones, precautionary, yes. Yes, I would recommend this. It is relentless. It exists in its own world. I can't state that enough. The characters, their background, Jeannie herself, it's like she was dropped on her head as a child way too many times.
Yeah, this is one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Ever.
It is the most exploitive film of any group.
Insane that this was able to get made and released in the theater.
Mm-hmm. 70s.
This is definitely a borderline port. It is highly entertaining.
Yeah.
Very, very, very entertaining. It is very funny, and I'd say in parts legitimately funny.
Yeah.
It's actually really good.
Yeah, it is.
But it is a porno.
What makes it funny is just the delivery. Yeah. It's so deadpan, but like it's just because their acting ability is so terrible.
Yeah, except for Javita.
Javita, I think, is
Javita Bush.
I give her the award, Miss Bush.
Yeah,
you win the
definitely
award.
Our favorite cheerleader.
Yeah, I would never. Yeah.
If anybody walks in while you're watching this movie, you will have to start the most awkward conversation of your life to explain away anything that they've seen. Because it's almost guaranteed they're going to walk in during a sex scene. Because a good 50% of this movie is sex scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, someone's going to walk in and say hands above the covers when they see this on in your room.
Yeah.
You better be ready.
God help you if you're watching this with the covers over you in a bed.
While taking notes.
Yeah. That's how Chris was watching it.
Yeah.
Here's an even better idea. Go ahead and watch it with a good friend of yours. Honestly, I've seen this movie twice with people in the room, and both times has been very awkward.
Yeah.
And the only time you've seen this movie is with me sitting there.
Yeah.
It made for a very awkward watching experience.
Yeah.
Because you can't really talk away these sex scenes.
No, you just have to let them happen.
Yeah, and we've kind of made it our mission to watch almost every frame of these things, so we try not to avert the eyes.
Right, and we can't really comment on anything while it's happening to preserve the spontaneity of this recording.
We are... Chris refuses to even talk to me about these movies until we press record. Mm-hmm. So I never know his opinion on anything until we actually get into it. Right. I just always think he hates the movies, and then I find out otherwise. So If you were to make a sequel to this, what would you call it, and what would it be about?
Cheerleaders 2, Wide Receiving.
Perfect name.
Yeah.
I know you've. It seems like you put some thought into that one.
Not really, actually. I kind of thought of it like I was spacing out while you were talking. It kind of popped in there.
Yeah, Mike's on another one of his tangents.
Yeah, I mean, what it would be about? Nothing. It wouldn't need to be about anything. Shut the fuck up. Just get it on.
The next football game.
Yeah, get some girls, put them in cheerleader outfits, and it's the next game, next city over. Same plot. It's just now Jeannie now is making her mission to make it with 3 guys at once, but on field during halftime in the middle of everybody, and that is her goal. That is the new initiation.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think if I were to do a sequel, I definitely would keep the name. What was that? Wide Receiving.
Wide Receiving.
Wide Receiving, for sure. I would make it take place in the future. And Jeannie is now the cheerleading coach for the school. And she's passing on the good word and the good vibes here in the 1980s about what it's like to be a cheerleader.
How many children does she have at this point?
0. Thankfully, they chemically castrated this girl because she is a little slow. So she's coaching a team of reckless vermin, these cheerleaders.
Okay.
And they're just spreading disease all over the place. But they have an opening, and she meets basically her, another virgin, and she is determined to get her on the team and get her laid. And she can relay all these interesting anecdotes about how she finally lost it, and we can flash back to some real interesting scenes from the first movie. But then it ends with AIDS being introduced into Amorosa High because it would be the 80s now.
Right.
And everybody dies.
The end. I love it. The only thing I would add to mine, because I can't top that, but I just realized I could add to mine at the very end when they win. Oh, we got a new coach in town. And this big yellow van pulls up, and Danny DeVito wearing comes out.
I got the money.
I got the money. Well, and then he goes, "We got a great new quarterback." And we don't see the full reveal, but we see a window starts to roll down in the van. We see this orange hair, and right before we see the forehead, we cut to black.
The straight arrow rolls up. Yeah. God, if that movie somehow crossed over into this. Like, all Bobby had to do was go to Amorosa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I feel like as long as this podcast goes on, we're still going to be talking about the van.
Yeah.
Until we get Danny DeVito on this show to explain himself.
I am so infatuated with that movie now. Like, I'm gonna shoehorn it into everything we do now.
Yeah.
Podcast wise, it's gonna be in every sequel I think of.
So I told you that's the one that's gonna stick with you forever.
Yeah, it is.
The van is a real intro.
It was my great introduction. I have you to thank for that. So the van, I need to get the poster of it now, framed and signed by Stuart Goetz and Getz.
Yeah, go ahead and give Stuart give him a message.
Ring.
Give him a ring.
Ring-a-ling-ding-ding.
He's done a lot of things. Look up his IMDb page. He does a bunch of sound design and music now.
Oh, I might
for Rocco's Modern Life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's still working it. My question is he still have the van?
I think about that.
It did roll over though. So, and now we're talking about the first movie we ever talked about. Welcome back. So there you go. Close up this old Grindbin.
Yeah,
it's been fun.
All right,
it's been very long.
All I have to say is touchdown.
And thanks for joining us on another episode of The Grindbin. I'm Mike Wood.
I'm Chris Mann.
Next week, we're going to be covering 1977's Chatterbox, which, Chris?
Me. That's all I'm going to say. All I'm going to say about that movie.
Try to find it. I think the only place you can find it is DVD. Oh, no. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Oh.
So go check it out. I'm not going to say our opinion on the movie yet.
Yeah.
You'll have to wait for next episode.
I'm being very coy about this.
I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. You got to go find out. This movie is crazy.
Rip Taylor. I can use that. I'll say Rip Taylor.
Tease it with the Rip Taylor.
Yeah. Love him.
Hey, Bobby, I got the money.
Yeah, I made the team. But you're a
real poetry.
Brenda.